Welcome to the broadcast, my fruits. I forgot to mention yesterday when I was going through Princess Catherine's wardrobe, that luxury number she wore in camel, I forgot to mention that the earrings were one of her favourite pairs by Accessorize. And they go for the princessly sum of £1.50. Or they did when they were available. I believe they might have sold out. But it's nice to know, isn't it, that she throws into the mix a few accessible items here and there. I mean, you know me, if I could, I'd have her in diamonds and furs every day of the week. But, if it pleases the media and the masses, so be it. But that was lovely to see. And talking about fashion, King Charles and Camilla were an absolute rave when they attended an exhibition of African fashion at the Victoria and Albert Museum. And they were greeted by the glorious people there in a way that Meghan and Harry could only dream of. And I'm talking about by Meghan's favourite, you know, who she considered her bosom buddy, Edward Enninful, and the designer Oswald Boateng. Greeted with such passion and such delight, and I don't think that she ever thought that stuffy old royals, stuffy old bigoted racist royals, could ever forge relationships with anyone other than the aristocracy or upper class white people, completely dismissing the fact that they've worked with beloved members of the Commonwealth and everybody else in the world their entire lives. So it's no biggie, but it was wonderful to see the rapturous reception they got, and it was so funny to see Charles chuckling along with Edward and Oswald, saying, "Oh, what are you two doing lurking here?" You know, there was a real sense of familiarity between them. And it's nice and it's cosy, because Camilla gets on very well with Eddie too, and worked with him earlier in the year, didn't she? With her photographical spread. So, you know, these ephemeral temporal characters come along. Not just Meghan, but, you know, these temporary figures of craze, of fashion, of the moment, stumble along into the picture, into the frame. If they're sensible, they make hay while the sun shines and lap it up during that hour when they have one or two good summers. And as the sun fades into harvest, they get on with their lot and think back to times past. Well, some people waste that opportunity and don't realise that on the royal family the sun is always going to shine, and they're always going to be in favour. Doesn't matter if you try and turn the world against them. The world still turns. And what was once in vogue 2 years ago ain't gonna remain there forever, unlike royalty, which has a relationship with a magazine like Vogue for centuries, not just a few months. So very heartwarming to see there. And Camilla was elegant in a black midi dress over a white poplin puff sleeve shirt, a black cape jacket, nothing showy, nothing gaudy, just something that gets on with the job. This exhibition celebrates the creativity and ingenuity and global impact of African fashion. And you see Charles here in this blue single-breasted suit, and I was trying to work out what colour that tie is with a sort of matching pocket square there, and I came up with palest puce. What would you say? I don't think it's quite lavender. I wouldn't really err to pink or mauve. But I thought there was something pucey about it. Palest puce. Always reminds me of Santa Claus the movie. If you know, you know, right? Those puce lollipops. BZ Toys. What a fabulous movie. One of my favourite Christmas movies, that Santa Claus the movie. They just don't make them like that anymore. This was all ahead of a state visit by the President of the Republic of South Africa, which is imminent, happening towards the end of November when he comes over for a weekend to spend time with the King and his consort. And I couldn't help but notice this handsome gentleman that Charles was in conversation with. Isn't he striking? And he's certainly welcome to strike me. And I'd love to draw your attention to the story of 11-year-old Tobias Weller, an 11-year-old young gentleman who lives with cerebral palsy and autism. And earlier in the year, or perhaps before that, he walked a marathon. He raised a lot of money, I think so far £160,000. he completed an Iron Man as well. And not only was he honoured in the event, it was presented by our darling Sophie, the trophy. And by the way, when I call her Sophie the trophy, I'm not referring to the fact that, I'm not saying that she is a trophy wife of Edward's, by the way. I don't want to be misinterpreted. I mean that she is a trophy for the country, my dear. We hold her up as a prized possession, for want of a better word, a prized trophy, because she does such sterling work on our behalf, and I'm very grateful for it. But although Sophie dished out the honour, it was in fact bestowed by the Queen when she lived and breathed. And this gentleman, this Tobias Weller, is the youngest person on record to feature in an honours list, and he attained this British Empire medal, a BEM. I've got to say, I'm quite surprised hearing what one hears about the youth of today, that he actually accepted the award because it had the word empire in it. But in any case, this young lad didn't have a problem with being honoured with this British Empire medal. In fact, he was inspired by Captain Tom Moore, and Sophie looked gorgeous as she honoured him. This was in Sheffield. She had been out in Cheshire and Sheffield, and she was wearing a sort of red wine number, a delicious coat there with black boots. I do love a good knee boot, don't you, ladies? Love it. I've actually got 3 pairs on the way that I ordered online, and they've been held up for those of you in the kingdom. You know that delivery company, Hermes, or Hermes, I think it's Hermes, isn't it? Yes, Hermes, that they've changed to Every, EVRI. Everything you ever order with that company's involvement goes missing. And my 3 pairs of knee boots, actually it's 2 pairs of knee boots and 1 pair of stockings, they've been held up for over a week, and you can't get hold of a human to right the wrongs. I digress. Where the hell was I? The coat was single-breasted and made by Vince. The knee boots, that was it. The knee boots were black and really rather becoming. She opened a new educational skills centre, which includes a nature reserve. She joined the Blend Kitchen, making Yorkshire puddings, one of my favourites. And nobody makes them like my grandmother. I hope my Bostonite fruits on the other side of the pond are getting excited for the visit of the Prince and Princess of Wales, because they'll be hitting your shores, won't they? I believe the awards gala for the Earthshot Awards is on the 2nd of December, so less than a month away, and I'm excited because I think that will kick off the Christmas month with a bit of glamour. I'm hoping to see Catherine dress up all sparkly. And William announced 15 finalists in the running to win that £1 million environmental award, and this is given to innovative ideas for the environment. William said they're directing their time, energy and talent towards bold solutions with the power to not only solve our planet's greatest environmental challenges, but to create wealthier, more prosperous and more sustainable communities for generations to come. And here we see this beautiful young lady, Charlotte Maguire, or Charlot, it's spelled C-H-A-R-L-O-T. Charlotte or Charlot Maguire set up a company, she did, providing cleaner and safer stoves in Kenya. The founders of another company, LCM, uses unrecycled plastic waste to make concrete blocks without carbon emissions. Notpla Hard Material makes packaging from seaweed and plants as an alternative to single-life plastic. There's a company called Fleather who specialise in a certain leather that's made out of floral waste in India. Isn't that ingenious? And a nice idea, floral waste. Whoever heard of such a thing? Well, you get a lot of that floral waste when a royal dies, don't you? After old Queenie kicked the bucket, certainly Diana, all those petrol station flowers and bouquets littered around London. Could have shipped them over to India, couldn't we, to make some feather. A cornucopia of talent, the whole thing is. I can't read them all out here, but a cornucopia of talent and inspiration. Very inspiring. All these kind of groups from all over the world coming together. Curated and hosted and encouraged by our Prince of Wales. Isn't it wonderful? Pono Harwilu says, "It's always wonderful to see the Prince and Princess of Wales out and about. Not only do they look fabulous, but more importantly, they look like there's no place in the world they would rather be than right there with their subjects." We are not yet William's subjects, my dear. Just a small correction there. Future subjects, yes. The British people and others of the Commonwealth, they are an inspiration to many of us. Yes, and I think it certainly galvanised them in the wake of the Queen's death and Charles and Camilla, to see the formidable support that they have, how loved the members of the family are, even the ones that were suspected to be rather unpopular. Everybody was so embraced that it's given them a renewed sense of purpose and a feeling that they're not just wasting their time when they're out and about and receive so much criticism and disparagement as they have done in the past couple of years because of the actions of their in-laws. Largely because of the actions of their in-laws, with Harry as brother more to blame. Let's see what it comes out with in this tome. And we need to remember here how easy it was for Harry to write this tome. Because as a ghost-written memoir, all he had to do was sit down and be interviewed by J.R. Mooringer. You know, there's a great difference between sitting down and having a chat and putting pen to paper and actually writing and being an author. And I'm not saying I blame him for that, and it'll certainly be a much more palatable read because of the ghost. The talents of the ghost, absolutely. But we certainly shouldn't give him any credit for artistry or the talent of his pen. Merching talent, perhaps. Merching talent, certainly. On the back of his royal connection only. But yes, it was their fault that the Prince and Princess of Wales received so much nastiness over the past couple of years. But they are flying, despite the Harkles' best efforts. They're soaring. Your second point, so happy to see the Queen Consort. She looks like she's so at ease with being in the public eye, and she makes the king so happy. Yes, she's come along in leaps and bounds over the years, hasn't she? Life wasn't so easy for those two for so long. They deserve whatever happiness they have, and it's obvious King Charles is better for having his queen to help him. Absolutely, it's the partnership that makes it work. Long live the Queen Consort, because Charles needs that tonic to his gin. Long live them both. Long live them both. You know, she is a few years older than Charles and likes a good old puff on the old cigarette, doesn't she? Which is fabulous, and I thoroughly approve. Quite sad that the whole cigarette arrangement's going out of style, but looking so healthy always. So it is wonderful to see them together. They work incredibly well in tandem. They are essential twosome. They love attending events together. She never takes the shine from him. Not that Diana could especially help that, I've got to say, because she was just so endlessly captivating that even with the best of intentions, she would always have upstaged, even when she wasn't engineering it that way. I truly believe she would have. Camilla works very well by his side. She softly glimmers. And I do think that out of respect to the Queen, she held back, as she was not the matriarch of the family when the Queen lived. And I think that she did hold even more of herself in reserve, because she has a rather fabulous side to her, which the public have only become privy to lately over recent years. And I think that now they are unleashed and the king can form or grow the monarchy in his style, in his image. And it's the same with the consort. and especially after they are crowned, I think we will certainly see that rather fabulous side of her, that sense of humour, that naughtiness, emerge further and fuller, and she'll become more rounded in the imagination of the public, as she's already doing. But they do it quietly. They do it naturally, unlike other members of the family that are so giddy with excitement at everything, that have to illustrate their credentials, how worthy they are, how fabulous, how philanthropic, how down with the kids, busy friends with Soph Trudeau, Eddie Ellen Ford. No, my dear. The world has got to see a royal display, and it's worked out really rather lovely and better than I could ever have hoped for. Beginning with the success of the Platy Juju, the Jujubee back in the summer, beginning with that success, which put them in their place, the others, the Puke and Pukess. That put them in their place, didn't it? And then following on with the funeral of the late Queen. Time unravelled who they are and who the royal family are. Thank you, Time. And your third point, as for Harry and his wife, I have never felt that they would divorce because they are so crazy. Who else would put up with either of them? They share too many lies and delusions. It cements them together. I've got to say that I do agree with you. I think that it would take something extraordinarily impactful and severe for Harry to allow himself to see beyond her veneer, or to allow himself to really look at it and inspect it and see the enormity of what he's done. And I quite agree with you that I think it's unlikely that that time will ever come. It does cement them together. Their delusions do cement them together. It makes them happy in their partnership. That folie à deux. CCK has a slight criticism for Princess Catherine, and I happen to agree. I'll tell you one thing that makes me think the Harkles affected the Waleses, and that is all the touching and feeling. Kate puts her hand on the husband's back in public a bit more than normal, like Meghan. Well, in fairness, I take your point, but I've also seen plenty of photographs from years ago, before Meghan came along, throwing their arms around each other, being touchy-feely, so I don't actually think that it was inspired by the Harkles. It just can look that way. Also here, in photographs I showed in the last broadcast, you say she's being very Princess Di by hugging and draping herself over this elderly man. The difference with Di is that she always brought people to her. She didn't lean into people. Kate hasn't got that down yet. I remember when Kate would shoo her husband's hand away from her in public because the Queen didn't like any PDA. Keeping up with the Harkles? I see your point. It makes me giggle. I don't agree with all of it, but I do agree with what you say about her leaning into the crowd. And that Diana, I haven't made the comparison, but didn't do it in the same way. They came to her. And I did notice that in yesterday's photographs as well. I don't particularly, especially want it to become a habit that she's there in her muddy shoes, making great pains to go and meet the crowds. And there were some images of her stooping and bending and stuff, like a commoner. It's not something that I care for to see all the time. I guess gradually I'm getting used to the more touchy-feely version of royalty that some of us are just going to have to suck up. Some of you love it. Some of us are a bit more reserved about it. So I can accept some of it, but yes, I want to see less of this stooping and to maintain that royal spirit. So I'm with you there. And this just happens to be a couple of comments along another criticism of Catherine. XO. And whenever I do this, I always get a comment from some lunatic. Oh, you're being paid by the Harkles? Seriously, grow up and get a life. I compliment and criticise everybody, from Harry and Meghan to Catherine and William. I'm not here to resound in some weird, infantile echo chamber, my dears. I don't think you agree with me, XO says, but I find the constant flipping and tucking of long hair that both Catherine and Meghan do very distracting. Yes, I noticed it when Catherine looked radiant in a meeting last month, actually, and she was captured on camera. And she was constantly referring to the Barnet, as we call it here. The Barnet Fair, the hair. She was constantly referring to it, and it's not necessary. I know it's easy for ladies and gentlemen to do, to play with hair all the time, but when you're a public figure, fix it. Fix it in a style that isn't going to annoy you, that isn't going to droop down. And it isn't just Meghan that does that. You are absolutely right. There's been episodes of the broadcast that I've filmed, and when I've watched it back, I've thought, oh dear, stop playing with your hair. And I actually haven't broadcast it because it annoyed me so much that I didn't want to inflict it on my fruits. So, fix the hair for the day. Especially on a blustery day, I've seen Catherine go out with her hair in long locks. What's wrong with an updo? Or a little bit of L-net? What's wrong with a headscarf as old Queenie used to wear? I don't expect them to go for that iconic hairdo of the Queen's, which was so practical and kept everything out of the face. But take some practical precautions, my dears, whether your name's Rachel or Catherine. Haven't we all had that friend that's constantly pawing away at their Barnet? Yes, we have, haven't we? We've all had that friend. It's as if they've got nits. And I've got one beloved friend, and whenever we used to go to the cinema, we'd sit down together, and there we go. She'd start twiddling the hair. I had to keep prodding her. The thing is, as well, it comes across, even if the person is completely self-effacing, it comes across as vanity. It comes across as vanity, this preening. It might just be nervousness, or, of course, just trying to get the hair out of the face, but it comes over as vanity. That's the trouble. Jane Cornell says, I bet you look lovely in the nude. I mean in nude, because we were discussing the nude colour palette for fashion. I bet you look lovely in the nude, River. There, a juicy comment coming to you. Very naughty, Jane Cornell, but I thoroughly approve. I love the 3 strands of pearls. Yes, they are lovely, aren't they? Pearls are so becoming. On anybody, they bring out the lustre, You also look lovely in red. Thank you, my dear. And I bring this up simply because I actually look the best in the nude. I look better naked than when I'm clothed. I do rather like wearing a string of pearls to adorn the nude body, and of course a pair of heels, some silky lingerie. But yes, everything makes sense. The proportions, the lines, the softness, the ripe peachiness, the juiciness, the sugarized buns, everything makes perfect sense when I'm nude, heeled, spread-eagled and waiting. Rhonda Witherspoon, what a fabulous name. Why are you so condescending and patronising to your viewers? You can have a differing opinion without the tone. Perhaps some like that about you, but it's unbecoming. A shame because you have so many other attractive qualities. Unsubscribing. It's one of those announcers, aren't they? They tickle me, These ones that insist they're unsubscribing. They usually return, by the way, and watch every single show ad infinitum. But they love to announce that they're leaving. I never knew you were there, Rhonda Witherspoon, my dear. I never noticed you while you were there. I won't notice you now you've left. So I'm not quite sure why you felt compelled to tell me, but you did, and I thank you for the feedback. Why are you so condescending and patronising to your viewers? A, because it's fun, not just for me, but for many of my fruits. And B, because I'm only patronising and condescending to those who are viewing without a sense of humour. Next, but on a serious note, I have discovered over the months, as many creators do, that there are those out there, there are those Fruit Loops that take everything you say incredibly seriously, and if you decide to adopt the tone that you are going to be forthright and strong and give a forthright opinion, there are those, why are you shouting at me? Why are you screaming at me? Why are you yelling at us, River? And get themselves into knots over the fact that I'm just coming to you with a theatrical presentation. I adopt a tone for each video, for each broadcast, whether that is gentle and mild, and light-hearted and gay, or rather strident, because it's designed to entertain and let you know what the video is going to taste like. And if you want to be a successful basketeer here in the fruit basket, then you should know that every broadcast is delivered with a wink. I do understand that there are people out there with problems in receiving information, taking it literally, and I have every sympathy for them. But I also have oodles of sympathy and compassion for those of us that have to deal with those people that take everything we say so very seriously and literally. My disclaimer even tells you this is a sprinkling of theatre, a little bit of parody, a little bit of satire. It's a show. If you don't like that style, go find another show. Go find something that pleases your sensibilities. I'm not saying that I'm to everybody's taste, my dear. Nobody is. I'm merely saying that you have your pick of all the other fruits and vegetables out there, my love. It's gone harvest time. But they're all out there for you to pick and select and pluck at your want and whim. And I'm not asking you to pluck me, my dear. But if you do pluck me, make it a good plucking. And eat with relish. That's all I ask. Receive my broadcasts with a wink. My only subject, mission, what's the word I'm looking for? My only objective, my sole objective, is to make those of you who pop by here regularly for a chinwag walk away with a grin, have a chuckle, even if you think, what a lunatic. Or if you do it with fondness, whatever it is, it's just to make you come away feeling a little bit lighter than you did before you arrived. And I'm told every day in the comments that I achieved that aim. And I'm happy with that. And if I may do giggle, and you wish to show your appreciation in some tangible fashion, my tip jar is in the description box below, and I thank you most sincerely. And I look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast, because I'll be back when I'm back, and I'll see you then. Doodle pip!